thanks for visiting. I'm Dustin Saldarriaga, an immigration lawyer with Scott Legal PC in New York City, and today I'll be walking you through a question that's caused a good amount of confusion for certain nationals of Mexico who are in the US on a TN visa. Specifically, can a national of Mexico who has a valid TN visa change or add a TN employer at the port of entry? We'll dig into this question in a moment, but in the meantime, please be sure to subscribe. By doing so, you'll stay updated on the most current and high-quality information about options to visit, work, or live in the United States. So let's get back at it. Can a national of Mexico change or add a TN employer at a port of entry, or do they need to apply at a consulate? The TN visa was originally created through NAFTA and has quickly become one of the most popular visa options for those from Canada or Mexico who want to come to the US to work for a US employer. Now, the application process is different for Mexicans and Canadians. In general, nationals of Mexico are required to apply for a TN visa at a consulate. Nationals of Canada can apply at a consulate, but they also have the option to apply at a port of entry, an airport, or a land crossing. This is extremely convenient. It means they can simply book a flight to the US or drive to a land crossing and bring their TN application with them. There's no need for them to visit a consulate beforehand. Now, there's a lot of confusion about whether there are any circumstances in which a national of Mexico can apply for a TN at a port of entry in the way that Canadians can. This confusion has not been helped by the US government. This is because the government agency responsible for reviewing TN visa holders and other individuals who seek to enter the US, CBP, or US Customs and Border Protection, has made public statements suggesting that a national of Mexico who already has a valid TN visa can change or add TN employers by leaving the US and applying for re-entry at a port of entry. According to CBP, all they need is their existing valid visa and a TN application letter from their new employer. There's some support for this position outside CBP. For example, the Foreign Affairs Manual, which guides consular officers, states that the TN visa is not specific to an employer. That would seem to suggest that someone who has a valid TN visa can change employers without needing to visit a consulate for a new visa. Unfortunately, it seems like some CBP officers are either not aware of this position or disagree with it. There are a number of examples in which CBP officers have refused to admit nationals of Mexico who are trying to re-enter the US with a valid visa, but to work for a new TN employer. Now, there's also support for this position. Some regulations suggest that CBP does not have the authority to adjudicate TN applications for nationals of Mexico, and that such adjudication would need to be first completed by either USCIS or the consulate. This issue wouldn't come up for nationals of Canada since they are visa exempt. In other words, there's no visa for CBP to adjudicate when it comes to nationals of Canada who want to enter with a new TN employer. So what's the takeaway from all this confusion? If you're a national of Mexico with a valid TN visa and want to play it safe, meaning that you don't want to risk being denied re-entry to work for a new TN employer, you should first receive approval to work for the new employer before approaching the port of entry. Ideally, this approval would come from a consulate, which carries the least risk of rejection by a CBP officer. As an alternative, if the Mexican national is physically inside the US, they can apply to work for the new employer through USCIS. CBP officers tend to be more deferential to an approval from a consulate than an approval from USCIS. For this reason, it's generally recommended that the applicant secure an approval to work for the new employer from a consulate if possible. We hope this video was helpful. If it was, please go ahead and click the like and subscribe buttons to stay updated on future videos about visa options and travel to the US. Thank you for watching.